Anyone hear me?
We hear you.
I'm gonna have to use my phone.
Okay.
Because my Richmond telephone Wi-Fi seems to be kaput because the red button is on and I cannot seem to reset it no matter what I do to it.
Well, hopefully we can get that changed one of these days.
This is gonna be tough. I wonder if it's because they changed ownership that they shut it off or shut it down.
No, I'm sure that has nothing to do with it. Where's Roger?
He said he was coming. I just talked to him about 5 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago, I think he was in another meeting, but he said he was coming.
Okay.
Oh.
Mr. Yodelman.
Is everyone here that needs to be here?
Oh, we're looking for Roger.
On my phone, I need about 20 magnifications. Can you read that, Neil, for me, please?
Can you make it a little larger, Danielle? That's better. Good. Just move it over a little bit. Not quite so large. Good. All right, it is 6 o'clock. And as requested, I'll read the Zoom notice. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GLC 30A, Section 20, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Richmond Board of Selectmen will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with the right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at richmond.org, richmondma.org. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen or watch the meeting may do so in the following manner: logging into Zoom. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time by technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting.
Thank you.
Here's Roger.
Is Roger here now?
Yep.
This is going to be extremely difficult for me. I can see that because my phone screen is so small and the sound is not the greatest, but I'm going to try and do the best I can. What is the first item on the agenda?
Approval of the minutes for November 4th.
I reviewed the minutes, submitted some minor edits. I understand they have been made, so I'll move approval of the minutes for November 4, 2020.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Wilson, aye.
Manzoni,
Anderson,
aye.
aye.
Done.
Consider it done. The next item, please.
It was public comment.
I guess public comments open to anyone at any point in time, I believe.
Well, it's an item on the agenda. All right. Anyone? Let's see, I'm looking around. Peter Miller, Bob Yodelman, I guess, represent the public. The other folks are employees of the town or us.
Okay, if nobody wants to make a comment, we have, next is the update on the town building status regarding COVID. So we have town hall closed to the public right now. We are still working. We're asking people to drop off items that they have in the black box or to make appointments. And that's just for right now, while there's a significant increase in the number of cases in the surrounding communities. We here in Richmond only have one right now that I'm aware of. So Richmond is still looking good, but we do tend to have a lot of walk-ins for people who are just driving through on their way back and forth to work. So we decided that we would stop that for right now. We're hoping to go back to hybrid meetings once the cases start to go down.
How has the public been informed of this change in policy?
We put it in the newsletter, we put it on Facebook, and we put it on our website. And there's a sign on the door.
Have you had any complaints or problems?
Nope.
Good.
Nope, because the people who are still there just ring the bell anyways. So we help them if they're there. We don't send them away.
How about our employees? Are they still arriving? Are they coming to work?
Oh, yeah.
Or-
Yeah, we're all still there.
Well, should we consider during this increased spike to operate from home, work from home?
No, I don't think it's necessary at this point. The offer is always there if they don't feel comfortable, but at this point, working from home and just not having the public there is a better thing right now, I think.
Well, assure them the option is available to them if they don't feel comfortable.
Oh yeah, I highly doubt that's gonna happen since they all fought with me to a T when I kicked them out the last time, so.
Okay, well,
Oh.
that's good, but safety first.
Yes, absolutely. And if I thought it was a need, I would kick them out whether they liked it or not.
Okay,
We are also hoping to switch to a different online program if we get all of our CARES Act money, which I'm pretty positive we will, is to change from a format. It's similar to Zoom, but it's called GoToMeeting. And you can also get GoToRoom, which gives us much better equipment to use. And so it's a better camera, better sound system, better laptop to be able to use with the, with the meeting program. So we're looking into possibly doing that so that when we do the hybrid, it'll be much easier to go that way.
and how much is that equipment going to cost?
I have applied for $8,000 in the CARES Act funds,
Mm-hmm.
and it wouldn't cost that much, but it's fully reimbursable.
Okay, so that's something that we buy outright and then apply for reimbursement?
Nope, actually, that's the way it's technically supposed to work. However, right now, the way the state is doing their CARES money is they're giving you a lump sum, and if you don't spend it all, you have to give it back.
Oh,
So,
okay. Well,
We'll get the money up front.
oh, that's great.
Yeah, I would also point out the board will be getting over the next couple of weeks or months a recommendation from the Cable Advisory Committee that we set up equipment to distribute our meetings from town hall on the internet on kind of a permanent basis, even if when we move back to full meetings at town hall. So it sounds like this equipment will facilitate that.
It will, and we've already actually gone a step ahead in that. I had it in my town administrator report, but I can touch base on it now. I talked with Laura Brennan today. She's with Berkshire Regional Planning, who helps us out with website design and that kind of thing. And my biggest concern I had said when we were going to do this was the storage capacity that we have on our website, that we wouldn't be able to store all those large videos so that people can routinely go through there. So what she has done is she has created us a YouTube channel. And so what it'll do is you can put a link on our website of the videos, but they will be stored in the free YouTube channel so that anybody can go in and watch them at a later date. And we have just created a new Google Drive account for the town so that we can make the Google meetings work out as well.
Good, thank you.
We are moving forward with that.
Speaking, since you mentioned website updates, did our contract allowed for a 1-year review of the website for updates? Did we ever act on that?
No,
Should we?
I can ask Laura what she feels about that. Laura,
Yep.
right? She's the one that's been helping us do that.
Have we been getting any complaints or issues with our website that you're aware of?
No,
Oh, okay.
I have complaints. It's not the most user friendly, but it works.
Mhm.
The back end is not the easiest way to go, but
Well,
once you get used to it, it's there.
I would just like, if that opportunity is there and we needed it, I would like to use it. But if it's
Okay.
not needed, then it's not needed.
Okay. I will double check on that one.
Thank you.
The next item is the special
steal
use
my
permits for Richmond Pond.
Is what?
The special use permits for Richmond Pond, they're the ones that the fishing game do
Oh, yeah.
for
Yeah.
boating tournaments.
Mhm, mhm.
So we have quite a few because you can start booking for next year starting October 1st.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna read off what I have. Do you want to approve one at a time, or do you want me to read off all of them and then do one big motion?
Let's read through all of them and then maybe we might single out one or two to talk about.
Okay. All right, we have Lip Rippers Bass Club. And they are looking to have their tournament on July 11th. And they are from 6 in the morning to 12 o'clock in the afternoon. We have the Nabasin Western Mass Group requesting a fishing tournament on July 24th. And they are again from 6, but this one is from 6 to 4, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. The Berkshire Bass Association is looking for one on June 19th from 6:30 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. And then we have Canyon Ranch. And did you have a question?
No?
Okay. Then we have Canyon Ranch, who has requested that they're not really tournaments. It's just when they have a couple people that come and boat, but the Fish and Game have decided that if they come with a trailer, they are required to get a permit. So there is one for every weekend from June until the end of September. And they are for Saturdays and Sundays. Sundays are in the afternoon and Saturdays are in the mornings. They have usually only about 8 boats at the max.
Is that the total of applicants?
So that's all of them.
From June to September,
Yeah,
that, that encompasses all of those other 3 tournaments. Are that 7-Eleven, 7/24, and 6/19, are they on a Saturday or Sunday?
Yep, but they don't interfere. The state allows them to have 2 of them at once. It doesn't increase the capacity over it. So
Okay, so there's not a conflict of space.
no.
The only question I have is this is a public parking lot now. Is this going to create really big problems for the general public as far as filling it up with bass fishermen? How many people do we usually get? Does anyone know what the grand total of people that show up for one of these things are? Do they fill the parking lot themselves, or will the public be complaining loudly about the situation if there's no place to park their boat or their trailer?
I don't think so. I've never gotten the complaints. It tends to be this way every year when you have fishing derbies. I
Oh.
haven't gotten complaints. I didn't get any last summer, so I don't know.
Actually, this is the same load as last year, basically. We had the same 3 groups in the same Canyon Ranch. So
Yes.
it's really no different than, there's nothing new here or nothing different here.
We have
So there's
routinely,
nothing to really single out. Go ahead.
well, I'm just saying, year after year, we do discuss and normally grant the permits. I would say in the absence of any issues that might have come up last year, which neither Danielle nor any of us are aware, I think I'm prepared to approve the application.
Right. Now, it's my understanding that with respect to the fishing derbies and the bass clubs, and I'm not sure about Canyon Ranch, that part of that application does talk to them about noise, being quiet and things like that. That's part of
Correct. That is already built into our permit, and there's a 6 a.m. required time. They can't come any earlier than 6 a.m.
Okay, so as long as that's there, and we really didn't get any complaints this year that I'm aware of. We got them in prior years, but I see no reason not to allow these. So I would move that we allow Danielle to approve them all.
All
In
right,
fact, we already gave Danielle the opportunity to do that without us. She's just given us a courtesy to let us know that these are in.
all right, I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Hanson, aye.
Wilson, aye.
Mansell, aye.
Next on the agenda is to appoint Claudia Ryan as the Assistant Town Clerk. She is coming at the recommendation of Angela. Claudia was very helpful through the elections, and she already helps us out with posting meetings on the website and on the boards. And then making her the official assistant town clerk, she'll also be able to help with marriage certificates and that kind of thing while Angela is not here.
Does this change the compensation structure?
It's already budgeted for.
Okay, so there's no budget impact.
Nope.
I see no reason not to approve that, as Claudia is willing to do it.
She nods her head. I certainly happily second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hanson, aye.
Congratulations, Claudia.
Yeah. Now there's going to be a surge of marriage requests.
But not for me, not to worry.
Yeah. You handled divorce requests as well?
Actually, I don't think so.
No, but there have been a lot of marriage intentions, I tell you.
There have, surprisingly still.
They're coming from New York.
It's amazing what COVID can do for people.
Yep.
I imagine we're going to have, like we were war babies we're gonna, next year, it'll be all the COVID babies.
Yeah.
Alan and I were pre-war babies.
Well, I was talking about this younger
Oh,
generation,
okay.
much younger.
So I will go on to my town administrator report because the rest of the finance committee isn't on yet. We had originally said 6:30 because I
Right.
figured it'd be a little
Mhm.
longer for us, but it just isn't. So we have a couple of things that we're working on right now. And one of them is the recapping of the landfill. We had talked about this at the beginning of March, that there is 2 other levels of the landfill that have never actually been capped. So we had the state out here. They did a couple of walkthroughs, told us what to do. So Pete and the crew have been over there. They have been doing work right now. So we have to look into putting money aside so that we can really start chipping away at what we have to do there. The state is more than willing to work with us. They're not going to start finding us anytime soon if we can't get everything done right away because it's been so long. But we have started cleaning up a lot of the big sections of the garbage. I think the biggest cost besides the fill is going to be getting rid of all the tires. The tires are anywhere from $5 a piece to $150 a piece, just depending on the size. So we have the guys over there that are working on it and we're getting ready to move forward with that. Then we have, Pete is working on getting me 2 more quotes to see what it would cost to do the barn doors. We had talked about that over where the Council on Aging van is. If we can change that door to make it bigger so that he can store some of his equipment in there as well, so that we can get equipment out of the cold weather. So we're waiting on 2 more quotes on that. The Dublin Road Bridge project is moving along. They are at about 60 to 80% design right now. They're going to go for the Chapter 85 state review so that in the spring, hopefully they can repair that bridge. We also have been working with Housatonic Valley Association. We got a grant with them. They came in, I think, right before we shut down. They came in and gave us a list of all of their culverts and storm drains that they were checking out. They have informed us that they also have received a grant so that they can get us to the design phase so that we can then go out to bid for another culvert repair. So one of the culverts that we chose is the second one on Dublin, just north of, or just closer to the Hancock line than where we are doing the current one. So that way both of those will be repaired. So we're working on that as well. And then the HMP and municipal vulnerability grant, we have been working on that. We have met with the core team, and in a couple of weeks we are starting webinars, which the core team will meet with stakeholders to review certain parts of the plan that we're going to move forward and what we believe our main hazards are. And that will be submitted to the state by May so that it can be done by June. So that'll be all set there too.
It's good.
About tires. Do we have a lot of tires at the old dump?
Got a lot. Why, you want some?
There are some companies that come around to the different garages and pick up these tires. That prices anywhere from $3 to $5 a piece. Could we get a quote from one of these companies if we had the tires readily available? They could drive it and throw them on. Maybe they get a better price out of one of these tire pickup companies.
We've been calling around. They're pretty standard prices. We haven't been able to find anybody less than $5.
Wow.
Yep.
I know there's nothing up.
They're really expensive.
Because I had a few to get rid of it. I ended up going down through Troy's garage to get rid of them, but there is an outfit out of Springfield that was offering to pick up tires for $3 a piece, but I don't know if they would come here for that amount of tires, you know?
I'm not sure, but if you give me the name of the company, then we can check it out.
I'll have to ask and see if I can find it on the internet.
Pardon me for asking, but do we pay them or they pay us?
We pay
We
them.
pay them.
Okay.
And there's a few really giant tractor tires, and those go for about $150 a piece.
Maybe we could do an artificial reef in Richmond Pond.
I'm not sure that would work too well, but hey. So
Well,
that is
check it
all I
out.
have on my report.
No, I wanted to get back into the old landfill now. This capping, the removal of the trash is only the first step, I believe, in the recapping process, is it not?
No, you are absolutely correct. We are in phase 1.
Okay, now, you're gonna do what a round number, what this would be for the total cost of this capping of the landfill, what they would give us, would they give us a rough estimate of the total cost, so we would at least have some idea of how bad it's gonna be, or good it's gonna be?
So they're allowing us to do 90% of it in-house. So that is what we're working on, so we can go slow, so we can kind of save the money. So we're paying people to chop down the extra brush on a couple of the extra layers that are there that we don't have the equipment to get into. We've already done that. And then we have the ability to take everything that when we use the drainage, if we go for doing drainage on all the dirt roads, the fill is going to go over to the landfill so that we can use that. And then we'll slowly work up to however we can and get as much as we can done. They're gonna, like I said, they're working with us. They're not going to start to fine us. They want us to be able to do as much as we can. Our landfill is not anywhere near as bad as a lot of the other surrounding towns are, because there's numerous towns around us that are in the exact same boat as we are right now.
Sure, I guess that's good news in part, for sure.
Mhm. So we're trying to figure out exactly what it would be. We have to keep it mowed down. I'm working with Pete to try to come up with a number as to how much it would cost to maintain it the way we need it. But first we have to try to get the garbage out of there so we can see where we're at as to where to fill, and from there figure out maintenance costs. So
The garbage, will we be able to get the Casella to pick up that, or is that something we have to kind of figure out, bring it down to the transfer station, to the state line, or I wonder how that will work.
we have a dumpster, we have a regular dumpster, and then we have a metal dumpster. The majority of the debris is metal, so we're putting it into our dumpster, and then when we get rid of that, we'll make a little bit of money back off on the metal that we have. The plastic, there's not much big pieces of plastic. What they tend to say is you bury it. You don't remove it all, you bury it.
Wow. Okay.
That's what capping it means, is you bury it.
All right, sounds better, sounds good.
And we move on
Yeah.
to selectmen
Any more?
matters, so we can finish at 6:30.
I would be a little bit cautious about what we bury. I would rather pay upfront to dispose of it and bury it, because the rules will change over time. And anything that we bury, I'll guarantee you that fast forward, we'll have to remove that later.
Yep, so we're not burying anything that's not already buried. What we're finding is that they didn't put enough fill on top of where it's already buried. The whole top of the landfill, if you were to go there, is soil on top of garbage. That's what it is. It's not They do not want you to touch that. They do not want you to dig up the garbage, because if you start to dig it up, all the methane gas comes out. So what you do is you take up the big debris that are all around, that are scattered up on the top. You take out as much as you possibly can, and then you fill. That's what you got to do. So we are taking as much as we can out, though. We're not trying to bury extra stuff that we don't want in there. It's just to try to dig out every piece of garbage is not something that.
So we're just increasing the size of the cap, the depth of the cap.
You're increasing it by 2 layers. Yeah,
Okay,
2 levels.
I understand now.
Okay.
Can we move on to selectmen matters so we can conclude close to 6:30?
Fine with me.
Yes.
I have just a couple items. I had a request that we confirm our green burial policy, which, as I understand it, as I recall, we adopted that or approved it some time ago. And I just wanted to confirm that green burial also includes or contemplates wooden box coffins. I had a personal request to be sure that that was our policy.
I have a question on that makes me wonder. I wonder, green burials. Now, we don't have a municipal water supply. Everybody has a drilled well. Is there any effect of green burials on nearby wells or anything like that? It would seem to me that the recharge area of any kind of a well is not necessarily next door to, your house. It could be miles away or hundreds of feet or right next to it. Just curious about how that has worked with other communities that have, utilized green barrels and also have personal wells or drilled wells, whatever you would want to call them. I'm just curious about it. It probably means nothing, but it's a thing I was curious about, I guess.
There's probably a setback requirement.
Well,
Yeah.
we adopted green burials, I think at least a year ago. We said, I mean, every other community has done it, so I don't see an issue, but I don't think we should reopen that.
I just
I
want
can
to see
check and see what we said, what you guys said, what you adopted.
Sorry, Danielle?
I can check and see what was adopted and what it was written out as.
No, I was just curious what other communities have done. Just curiosity on my part, I guess.
All right, one other, again, a request. Apparently, we pretty much resolved Hollow Fields in terms of the remainder of this year. But several of the residents have now pointed out, I think to all of us, that the signage up there about parking only allowed from dawn to dusk, there seems to be some question as to whether it's adequate, because apparently people are parking there in the middle of the night and in the late evening. I just wanted to inquire whether our signage is adequate, or more accurately, whether the BNRC signage is adequate up at the parking area.
Well, the issue is probably hunting that causes problems there for the most part. But what I'm seeing is right now, I believe archery is on in Massachusetts. And those guys like to get in the woods very early and they like to leave very late. So they're going to park there before sunrise. They're probably going to leave there after sundown. So that creates a problem with the yeah. What do you call it?
But I
Dawn
don't
to
think it's
dusk parking.
posted that way.
Pardon?
I don't think it's posted there. I think if I read that email correctly, they're requesting us to have it posted that way. The neighbors want it posted that way. It's not posted there, I don't believe. I think the neighbors want BNRC to post it that way.
Okay.
I'll reread the email, but I thought that what they were requesting was to have BNRC only allow parking during the day and not dusk.
I was
So-
kind of, I was kind of I kind of thought that it was already posted. It was dawn to dusk. It was open and not at any other time. I guess there's a little vagueness on that there, that signage or whatever. I haven't been up there lately to look at see if there is a sign like that. I was up there earlier, but I did not notice it. So dawn to dusk, that's probably a request from the neighbors.
Yes.
So can I,
So the
can I
problem-
speak now?
Yeah.
This is Pat. If you want BNRC to post it differently, tell them what you want, but we do allow hunting. And while people don't hunt in the field, they do hunt up at the top of the hill. There are stands up there that people put up, especially
Right.
during archery season, which is now. So you just need to, I think there's also a belief that we should keep as much land as possible open for hunting so the town can think it through. But if you want this, the signage, just need to communicate with BNRC what you're interested in.
But it is, I think the main concern, Pat, was that the neighbors didn't want people walking while they were hunting. But it's posted everywhere there that hunting is allowed.
No, that's right.
Right on the
that's-
trails to go. So I mean, people have to, the burden has to become on people who decide to walk those trails at some point, not necessarily the town.
No,
or
that's right.
BNRC.
And that's what all the BNRC properties that can allow hunting, it's always posted. And we always ask people to be careful and wear brights if they will, but that's just part of being out in the woods in Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, and so I think that I don't know if the neighbors are aware that hunting is allowed. I think they are, but I don't know about putting parking time restrictions on there. But
All right,
I
the
mean, that's
issue
really
is
up
the
to the
neighbors are
board to decide.
requesting that there be a limit to parking the dawn to dusk. No nighttime parking or early morning parking in the dark. That's what they're requesting. And my question to the board is, if we want to endorse that, we should ask BNRC to post a sign to that effect, if one does not already exist. No one's talking about enforcement. We're just talking about posting a sign.
I support requesting the hours as requested by the neighbors.
I do as well. Alan, how do you feel?
Yeah, I think it's not unreasonable. I mean, there's other access for hunters from the other side of the hill, actually. So, I mean, they seem to be way up in there as it is now. So why not come in from the other side where there's no real problem with neighbors?
All right, so Danielle, could you request at BNRC to post a sign about limiting parking at the parking area from dawn to dusk?
Sure.
And if they can't make an adequate sign that meets the size and everything of our sign bylaw, we would be amenable to
Including that in the permit?
pardon? We'd be amenable to special permit for if the sign needed to be,
Okay,
it can't meet our requirements.
okay. I'm done. Any other, because I see we're being joined now by the Finance Committee and Pat from, and others from the Building Committee.
I don't have anything. The two meetings are posted separately. So at this time, the finance committee just has to open their meeting so they can join us, and then we can have conversations from there.
Bob, you with us? Bob Nidek, you want to open your meeting?
I am with us. Give me a minute to get my video going.
Hold on, it's my phone. I'll get rid of it.
Wow.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Danielle, I presume I need to read the pursuant to Governor Baker's order? Is that
Yep.
true?
Yes, while you're opening your meeting. Yep.
Okay. So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, section 20, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Richmond Finance Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen or view this meeting while in progress may do so by clicking the link on the website under video on richmondma.org. Okay, so we have a brief agenda here for us, but it may take some time.
Bob,
and
your volume is very low.
It is. Well, let me see what I can do about
See
that.
if you can.
Hold on one moment.
Your volume is now off. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm telling Bob, you may have to get closer to your, Bob, you're muted. He'll figure it out at some point.
I've got to go charge my phone. I'm running out of power.
Hey, Bob, we see your lips moving. We don't hear you.
You're muted. You're muted, Bob.
It looks like he's signing up.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah,
Yes,
better.
Okay, so I heard, I knew I was muted. I was getting hollered at. I'm muted. I know that. I was adjusting my microphone. So, and I kept saying, bear with me. But anyway, okay. So we have a brief agenda, but I'm looking at this for the first time, and I see approval of minutes. What minutes are we approving?
I couldn't remember if you had any minutes from before, so I put it on just in case you had some. If you don't, then that is perfectly fine.
Okay, I don't have any to approve, so
Okay.
perhaps we'll have to revisit that one perhaps at the next meeting. The second item is the annual election of a chair and a secretary. So if the committee could address that, and let me just say, I've been chair for many, many years, and I would be delighted to relinquish that position should anyone else want to step forward.
I'd like to nominate Bob Neidig to be chair of the Finance Committee. This is Pat.
I would second that. Steve Patterson.
Well, I can't say I thank either of you for that. But next year, for sure, we're going to get somebody else to step forward, unless there are other nominations. While hearing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed? And there was one abstention. Okay, and
Very smooth move there.
secretary, I don't know that we've had one for a number of years because we've always had our town administrator passing off the minute taking to, I guess Angela has been doing it. I don't know who's, no?
No, Phyllis
Oh, Phyllis was doing them, right. Okay.
or
So I don't know
Claudia,
whether,
whichever one gets it.
okay. All right, so, but we should have a secretary. Is there a nomination for secretary? Is there a volunteer for secretary? Okay, what do we do, Danielle?
Well, you don't have to have one. You haven't had one. We'll just keep posting your agendas and doing your minutes for you.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
With much appreciation.
Okay,
I was
And a
afraid you
great
were going to
job
have
as
us
well.
pull straws or something.
well, next year. Okay, then the third item on our agenda and it's somewhere on the, I guess, item number 4, or on the select board agenda as well as item number 5, a discussion with the Board of Selectmen on the financing of the new town hall library building. And I believe we have David, yes, there's David down in my lower right corner to discuss the presentations that he has given to Danielle. But before we do that, perhaps we could have maybe a 3-minute overview of where we're at from Pat, and then we can talk about the financing pieces of that. And then perhaps if there are finance committee questions about the building project, those could be answered after we've talked to David.
So, so this is Pat Callahan. The building committee in April of last year put the project on hold after having gotten what we felt was a good design and a good plan for going forward with the town building. We put it on hold because of COVID. And this fall, we've started to meet again. And we think that even though there continues to be COVID and some uncertainty in the environment, that there are a number of reasons why this is still a good time for us to consider taking on this building. One of the reasons is because, well, for one thing, we've done a plan. We have a design, we have a floor plan, we have a site. So we've done a great deal of the work to get us to the beginning of this project. Financing rates are at a historic low. It's never going to get cheaper to build this building. And our town hall is not getting any better. It's getting worse. The library is not getting any better. It's really not adequate in these COVID times. So we certainly have a need, if we're going to keep the town as a vibrant, independent town. It's not going to get any cheaper, and we've come a long way down the road. So we believe this is a good time to move forward, even though there's lots of challenges in the environment. So our plan at this point, pending the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen's support and decision on financing program, would be to go out to the town with a letter telling them that we believe this is a good time to look at this building, and then scheduling a series of presentations where we can go through the site, the design, the floor plan, the needs, and how we would finance it and how much it would cost a taxpayer in the town. Is there any specific question you want me to address, Bob, or is that enough?
Oh, that's good for now, and
Okay.
we can address specific questions that might come up after we're done with the financing piece of this. Before I turn it over to David, I would ask Danielle if there's anything she wants to do to introduce this topic.
No, we can go ahead and listen to what David has to say on both of his presentations. I mean, I do have concerns in the long run, how we're going to make it all work, but it's just something we have to think about moving forward.
Just one
Okay, well-
quick comment, just for minute taking purposes. That was a very good dissertation, Pat. But you accidentally misspoke when you said April. You said last year. It was actually April of this year.
Thank you. Yes, you're right. It was April of 2020, 6 months ago. Right.
Right.
Thanks,
It's
Just
Roger.
seems like that much longer.
It just feels like forever. The longest 6 months of our lives.
Okay, so when the building committee got back together, it asked Danielle to approach David to run a few more scenarios, update it based on current interest rate projections and such. And he has done 3 versions of a bond issue, and we'll let him go through it. But in the PowerPoint, if you had a chance to look at it, I took information from the level debt service scenario to put into the PowerPoint, because we don't want to confuse the townspeople with the minutia of bond financing. And if you happen to look at the bottom lines of each of these three scenarios, the differences in interest payments are really immaterial in the long run. But so with that, I'll turn it over to David Eisenthal from Unibank.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Danielle did approach me several days ago to update the analysis that I had originally prepared in March. Some of the parameters were that I assumed no change in construction cost. I basically moved the assumed schedules back 1 year, updated rates to capture with some degree of conservatism to capture the low interest rate environment that we now have. And I prepared some contrasting approaches in terms of tax rate impact. The town would have a policy decision as to whether to take the impact all at once or to ramp up the impact on the of the new building. It's not necessary that there be multiple financings to accomplish a ramping effect, but I also did want to show you two bond issues as opposed to one, which was one of the scenarios that I prepared. One last item is that I think it's in the town's interest to retain some flexibility regarding exactly how the financing will be approached based on unknown things that are unknown at this point, which is exactly what the project is going to cost and what the timing is going to be. So with that, I don't know, are there specific questions that members of either board has at this point, or would you like me to go through some of the assumptions? Please let me know how I can be most helpful here.
Well,
Right.
I would just like to make a general comment on, personally and individually, I think people like to front end load a debt payment so as to reduce the burden over time. In a case of a municipality, I'm not in favor of a front end loading because it's burdensome to the elderly to be hit harder in the front end of a loan, and they're not going to be around long enough to enjoy the long-term effect of it. And so we did almost the opposite with the school, is we put the burden near the tail of the loan, and then as interest rates came down, we refinanced. So in a case of a municipality, I think a level funding type, like in this building, I think a level burden is a more appropriate approach. That's just my personal feeling. So I like to be respectful of the elderly when it comes to tax increases. And I like to be respectful of everybody, but I mean, I think it's most burdensome to the oldest amongst us. And I think we just want to remain cognizant of that.
I think a second matter is we can hold out little, if any, hope for a reduction in interest rates going forward.
Oh, that's right.
They
That's
just,
right.
it can't go much lower unless we get into negative rates, which is sort of abhorrent to the financial community.
Yeah, so that's why I think like a level burden, especially at these low rates, is not a bad approach.
I will say that in all cases, I've assumed 30-year amortization, well, as close to 30 years as one can get given that you're going to be doing some short-term financing, but the Mass General laws allow up to 30 years and allow a level debt service or mortgage-like amortization, which is one of the options that I provided. I will say that one of the other options was to kind of ramp up, because the level debt service option does show an increase in the tax rate of 38 cents per thousand, which on the average single family house in Richmond is about $150, which would be realized in fiscal year 22. And if we could structure this so that there's a more of a gradual impact, so it steps up, ramps up, rather than taking this $150 or 38-cent hit in 1 year. So that's, I guess, guidance from both boards would be, how would you like to approach that tax rate impact? Would you want to ramp it up, or have it all be in, have the, basically step up in 1 year and then basically have the impact be level for the remainder of the loan?
That step up that you talked about, did that take into account the anticipated step down that we're getting from the school being being liquidated?
Yes. If you look at the presentation at the sheets, there is a column called outstanding, and that would be the current school debt that is being paid off during the current fiscal year.
Mm-hmm. So that 150 you talked about to the average taxpayer, was that 150? Was that they're going to sense about a minus 150, and then does your plus 150 is you like more like plus 300? But the
plus 300 is the total impact. The average homeowner is currently paying about $150 for debt service. So it's a net of $150 on the average single family homeowner.
Okay, so instead of them feeling a minus 150 and no building, they're going to feel a plus 150 on top of what they have.
Correct.
But have a
total 300.
Yeah.
And I just say another one of the reasons why this is a time to consider doing this is the timing here, where the people understand that the school bond's being paid off, but the increase that they're going to see, if we go back $150 and then we try to go up 300 2 or 3 years from now, it's going to feel very differently than it would going up 150 now. So I mean, it's just another reason why the timing right now seems like definitely worth doing. I
agree.
So David, you have a footnote here that with the general obligation bonds, we assume that excess premium will be used to reduce principal amount issued. And I know we talked about that last time. So I'm presuming that these are coupon bonds at some rate higher than 2.41% in order to generate a premium. Are they 3%? 3% coupon?
Well, the typical pattern is that in the upfront years, we will see coupons of actually 4 to 5%, and then lower coupons in the later years that tend to be redeemable. But that's the premium is generated by those higher coupon bonds in the early years. That 2.41% is, as you say, that's an all-in cost that includes issuance costs, projected issuance.
Okay, and so this presumes that these bonds will be floated in November of 2021.
That's right.
What is the expectation for volatility in the municipal bond market between now and then?
I think that what the expectation is that short-term rates are likely not to move a whole lot between now and then. But since you're talking about 30-year bonds, we have to look at sort of what the longer-term rates are going to do. And I think a reasonable expectation is that longer yields will probably trickle up as inflation becomes more of a concern. So, I mean, if the town was doing the bond issue right now, I would say that it'd be likely that the rate would be lower than 2.41%. I tried to capture where I thought interest rates might be in roughly a year, given the credit quality of the town and the, where I think interest rates may be heading.
It's a difficult thing to project, given all that's going on.
It is. But I think it's helpful that we know that the Fed is not looking to, they may accept a little more inflation, which is why I'm thinking that the longer term rates might trickle up as they try to promote recovering in the economy, even if COVID goes away sometime during calendar 21 as a factor. I think that the economy will take some time to recover. And, the Fed has indicated that they want to kind of help that along, which is why I think short-term rates probably won't move too much, but I think longer-term rates could.
Well, a long recovery period, I think, would be good, not only for interest rates, but also for construction costs. We don't want all the demand coming out as soon as everyone realizes that a viable vaccine is on the horizon.
One point I want to make, though, is that I did present an option of multiple financings, and I think as long as we are confident that the proceeds of whatever borrowing are going to be spent reasonably quickly and completely, a single bond issue in November of 21 would be reasonable. The only concern I would have is that if the town were to issue financing for the entire project and had, it ended up that the project came in under budget and the town had excess proceeds, we would need to think about what that would mean and whether you really want to have potential excess proceeds. That under Mass General laws, the town could reprogram those for similar purpose, but that's a consideration that feeds into whether the town does issue one set of bonds in November. I'm assuming that the project will not be complete in November of 2021. It'll probably be somewhere in the middle of the project, but just wanted to make you all aware that if there's a concern about the potential for proceeds to be left unspent, that would be a reason to look at splitting the financing.
Could it be split so that the bulk of it was in a single, but you left a trailer, maybe $1 million for a second round, as opposed to splitting it like 3 and 3? Or does it make no difference?
Yeah, the problem is that if you do a 30-year financing, if you get much below $2 million, the
cost, right?
Well, the repayment amounts become the municipal bond market tends to like annual maturities of over $100,000. Okay. And with $2-3 million issues, you're going to have most of the maturities will be over $100,000. But if you have a $1 million 30-year issue, you're going to have a lot of very small.
Right. I think you explained this to us last year. I think we went through the same thing. So you reminded us. Thank you.
Is there any prepayment penalties? Are we able to, let's just say for whatever reason we inherited some money somehow, or we came across some money, could we pay a lump towards this at any time?
A typical approach for a municipal bond issue is to have all of the bonds that are payable in the first several years, and the word several is a little vague because it can depend on a number of factors. It's really up to you and we, at our recommendation, how long that period is. Those bonds would not be redeemable, but any bonds that mature, say, after the 7th or 8th year would be prepayable at any time after that. So let's say we said that the bonds maturing on or after May 15th of 2029 would be prepayable May 15th of 2028. Anytime after 2028, the town could pay off bonds and actually could probably, there are ways to refinance even more than, even before 2028. But there would be a way once you're a number of years into the issue, if there was a desire to take available funds and apply those to the repayment of principal.
Okay.
And actually there is another community that is fairly close to you that actually did that very thing last year.
I would like to make sure that whichever option we pick or whatever structure we pick, that we have that opportunity.
Right. It's a very standard feature of municipal bonds that for a bond issue that is of any length, that within 7 or 8 years, the bonds following that point would be redeemable.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions that may go more to Pat than to you, David, but I'm not sure. And one of them goes into the variability of the cost. So for example, many people in the construction industries in the last 6-8 months have seen an increase in building costs, a shortage of materials, and some significant delays in getting materials. How recent is the cost estimate for the building? Has that been updated, Pat?
So the cost, it has not been updated, but the project manager believes that if we are proceeding in this time frame, that the costs and the flexibility that they built in mean that it's pretty close, that it's in line, and that it's not necessary to recost it.
Okay.
There are some material delays, but labor costs haven't gone up. I know there was an article in the West Stockbridge newspaper that talked about some cost increases, but as far as this kind of building is concerned, the project manager and the architect don't believe that we've got significant cost increases at this point. That doesn't mean that wouldn't be true if we're a couple more years out, of course.
I specifically asked the project manager about material availability as a result of COVID and whatever. And he seemed to indicate that the types of materials that we're talking about here are relatively standard and they're relatively available. So he doesn't think that that's an issue.
Well, I hope he's right.
Yeah.
I just went through a 5 or 6 month delay on a small project because of materials not being available on the timetable they preferred.
Yeah, but if those are like pressure treated lumbers or things of that,
Actually, concrete blocks, paver blocks.
concrete blocks.
Yeah, paver blocks. Interesting. Okay, that's just drawing on a personal experience. Second question, again, it goes sort of to Pat, maybe to David. We took this project in a slightly different format out to the public some years ago.
Yep.
In your public presentations, I hope you would address, and I don't know what the answer is, higher or lower or sideways, how it compares to then, how we can build off that experience to try and engender more support, or maybe, to put it inversely, less negativity on the project.
Right. So that was 2005. And the project failed by 4 votes to the 2/3 vote that was needed. So I think the team that was on it in 2005 worked really hard. They had a building that wasn't so very dissimilar. I think it was a little bit bigger than the building that we've proposed. It was about $3.5 million then, 15 years ago. Too bad we didn't do it, those 4 votes. But you know, our intention is to just communicate like crazy. There's several other members of the building committee listening in here, and we've got a tentative schedule of 6 or 8 meetings, letters to the community. We've got the Richmond Record ready to help us. So we're just going to have to just talk to everybody who'll listen. to try to see whether we can get enough support for it, assuming that this team
And-
on the phone now supports it.
Although I do presume that the interest rates are dramatically lower. than
Yes,
that one.
yes.
The
That-
interest rates are definitely lower.
That
I don't
makes
know
sense.
what the cost to the tax rate was back then, to tell you the truth.
That's the point.
It was more than the $300
Yeah,
that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the rollout last time had a couple of issues. One was the design specifically was not in keeping necessarily with the character of the community. And it had some features associated with it that just were not well received. It had a huge glass presence in like 14-foot tall glass area. And it had some features that just were not acceptable to some. In fact, I think I probably could say to more than some. The design that we're looking at now is really quite in keeping with the community. It's relatively simplistic. There's no features that are outlandish or anything like that. And the other thing is the other rollout, we didn't have any community conversation, or not enough. Let's just say, I don't want to say we didn't have any, we didn't have enough. And I think we have learned from those lessons learned.
but you're right, Bob, to bring it up. I mean, it's something we talk about. This committee has pondered this question to make sure that we do everything if we're going to do it, if we're going to try again, we got to do everything we possibly can. You can't try this a third time,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay, let me ask if there are any more questions specific to the financing, and then we can get into these level of details afterwards with Pat.
Were we going to, I can't remember where we left off, but were we going to think about doing the full-on amount, or were we thinking of doing the 500,000 up front, then the rest of it? The 500,000 to get us through the engineering for short-term bonding, and then going for the full-on what we think the amount is?
I thought we were going to get a reading on that from P3.
So one reason that has nothing to do with the P3, that it makes sense to me to do a piece and then get the design done, get it all approved, but only take out the 500,000 and then go to the regular bond, is it gives us a little bit of time in case we can raise a little bit of volunteer money, contribution money. You really can't do that until you've got approval for the building in a tangible sense. It'd be nice to have a few months to see if we can raise potentially some several $100,000 that we could put toward it before we actually take out the whole loan. That's just a, side thing, I suppose, but.
And I think another reason for doing that is if we go through the engineering and out to bid and get construction bids back, we'll have a better handle on exactly how much this
Right.
building is going to cost us. And then we can issue the appropriate amount of bonds
Right.
and not have this concern about having to spend more money than we expected to. And David, is that a possibility to do that?
Are you saying to authorize the full amount and then do a short-term borrowing for the design and then borrow the remainder? Is that what you're asking?
That's what I'm asking, yes. If we could say, get an authorization for up to what we expect the full amount to be. And
Yes,
then
we can
come in
definitely.
less.
And then, in fact, the financing analyses that I prepared assume that the town would issue $500,000 in short-term debt to get the design and bidding done, and then proceed with a borrowing to finance the main project.
And at how close to November can we make a decision on what the borrowing amount would be?
Well, I think you I think you could make a change up to probably within a few weeks. Within probably in October, you could make a final decision as to the amount of the financing. I think we'd be starting the process of bond issue earlier than that, probably in August or early September, but I think a final decision as to an amount could happen a little bit further down in the process. But a lot will depend on what the cash flow that the OPM or designer produces for the project once it's out in bid.
Right. Okay. That sounds good, though. Any other specific financing questions? Okay, hearing none, I guess we could thank David for his time and his analysis and let him go and enjoy the rest of his evening, and we can entertain other specific things.
Okay. And I'll be in touch with Danielle about additional details.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
All right, thank you,
Good
David.
evening.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah.
Okay, so any additional questions for Pat about the project plan and or I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look at the slides that were sent to you, but there are some that are specific to financing and others that are of great interest. So I wonder if anyone has any comment on any of that.
Well, the slide that was of great interest, but it was very difficult to read on my printout, was the overprint of the current library on the new library space, and but that is not to do with financing other than the total size of the building.
Okay, so we have some feedback, building committee, we have some feedback from one person that they want to see all the floor plans.
No, I don't want to see all the fly. I just couldn't figure out how that slide even showed me what it was showing me
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
because
Yeah.
it was overprint. It was probably my printer.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we tried to show, we have in the end of the presentation, we have 3 slides that show the current size over the new size. So it shows that the town hall space is the same. The meeting room space is essentially the same, but the library is a little bigger because of course our current library is very small.
and those were the specific 3 slides that were hard to read.
Yeah, they are hard to read. Yeah.
Um,
I just wanted to remind everybody, I know everyone knows this, but remember that the estimate to bring our current town hall up to code was $2.9 million. So just in your back pocket, if we don't do this, we will have to do something there if we intend to continue to occupy that town hall. So it's just something else to consider.
And following up on that, that's sort of the capital cost to get there. I don't know whether the maintenance costs are more to maintain the town hall than it would be for the equivalent space in the new building. Certainly, I think your building bids or estimates include new septic systems. The town's current one is certainly problematic. And I don't know if you've gotten all the costs in there in terms of the savings of operating that building versus the cost of operating a new building. I just don't know.
Yeah, we don't. There's a slide in there called operating cost changes, but it hasn't really been filled out. So we're struggling a little bit. The design of the new building, it's going to be tight. I mean, when you build a new building these days, you build it with insulating materials. It will be electric HVAC. We'll put solars. The cost of solars is not included in this, but that'll be something we'll have to figure out later. But there will be space and the roof will be solar ready. So hopefully it'll be a very tight and efficient building. But the cost of the town hall today and the library today, I don't think we've got that all completely scoped out. And I know that's one of the things Danielle is concerned about. You get a new building, you don't want to let it get run down. We're going to have to take care of it.
So,
The only question that I have was the septic system. I understand that the new town hall, I should say library town hall, would be hooked up to the school system. which I think is virtually marginal at best.
So that's not been determined yet.
Yeah, no, this assumes a separate septic, but it assumes the same water supply, the same well. So
It's a good well, yes.
the water supply, and it also assumes that we can use the fire suppression system in the school. There's like a tank that holds a
Yes.
certain amount of water. But this assumes that we'll be putting in a new septic specifically for this building.
Okay.
Pat, any idea about if this project goes through, what we're going to do with the old town hall? Because that's certainly going to come up.
Yeah. Danielle, Roger, any thoughts on that?
We're still waiting to hear back from Beth on the whole ownership and everything else about the town hall. And then once we get all that back, I think the board can have that conversation, but I don't think we've really moved any further with that. We're still waiting on Beth.
I hope someone buys it and turns it into an antique shop, right?
Good.
But
It-
yeah, I don't know. We didn't assume any income. There's no assumed income from that building in the numbers here, just in case that was a concern.
No, if you sell it, it's going to have to be as is.
Right. My assumption on it is that we will dispose of that building. It will no longer be a town asset. Now the question is, will we derive any benefit from the sale of it, or will we avoid any cost of the demolition? That's all TBD.
Mhm.
But I don't see any reason for the town to retain that space.
It would not be a significant price that we would generate to, I think, be relevant in the discussion.
I do
you know-
have some concerns. I'm not trying to be a downer or anything. So I do want this project to go forward. Looking at the numbers and the budget long-term, it does scare me. I'm not going to lie. The town does not have income other than tax base. So that's really who's going to get the burden of it. We don't have reserves really to be able to help offset the cost of it. Our stabilization right now only has $363,000 in it. And to put the money into stabilization, you either have to raise it on somebody's tax rate or use free cash. We also don't have a significant amount of free cash that continues to come in. But that amount of those reserves, we like to save for our capital projects that we like to move forward. The $150,000, it would have been perfect for this school bond to retire. Then it would really be only about $150,000 that you're looking for an increase. But instead you have a minimum of $150,000 increase in sped costs automatically for next year. So there's that adds into it. You have your capital expenses of machinery that we have to continue to purchase, which is not cheap. We have to also cap the landfill, where we're looking at, the highway garage and those types of things. I'm not saying that I don't want this building. I mean, I would love to have a building that's a little nicer to work in every day. But it does scare me a little bit. I just want to make that clear.
I think
And
those are
looking at the
manageable,
budget,
those
so-
are manageable costs. The sped
What
cost,
are?
eventually we're going to be reimbursed for a substantial part of that.
Yep, but you got to remember that the school budget increases at least $150,000 almost every year.
Oh, but those are, that's life in Richmond. That's.
It is, but what I'm saying is that it's going to be the tax burden is all I'm saying.
It's challenging. That's why we have good people in our town hall.
I do worry though, Danielle, I get it because, we need to be sure people understand that this $150 increase on the average house, what's $38 or 100,000 or whatever it is not all the increase. There are other things that we face every year. But what happens if that town hall, is it is it healthy? Is someone's gonna call OSHA someday? I don't, I shouldn't say
Oh,
that
it's
out
not
loud.
healthy. And those stairs
But
are
the
rough.
stairs are
I mean,
scary.
watching people walk down those
I
stairs
know.
scares
So
me. I'm
honestly,
not gonna lie.
I think
I-
that town hall is a risk. And to ignore that risk would not be smart either for the town. So, you know,
No,
I
I
know that,
agree. That's why I said, I do have concerns. I'm not saying I don't want to move forward. I'm just,
The fact
there
is,
are budgetary concerns.
You look at-
The increased cost, you're gonna have to hire a facilities manager for that building. That's something that you have to think about. You're gonna have to have people who clean those bathrooms and maintain everything as well, because it's not something small that's gonna be able to do once a week. And it's not something that I think that we be really fair to throw on Pete as well and his guys. So that's another thought that you're gonna wanna think about for added costs.
that's an operating budget item, but if you look at the libraries and the town halls, at the three towns that are closest to us, Lenox, West Stockbridge and Stockbridge, the facilities we have now are an embarrassment. And I think we're the only town in the state that is renting its library.
that's true, Neil.
Uh,
Yes.
Town
Yes.
hall is, I agree, is a significant concern should be for the town. So the costs that Danielle is referring to are manageable costs that we are going to incur. And if this project is worthwhile, as I think it is, I don't think that the normal and usual expenses that the town will incur over the next 2, 3, 5 years should be an impediment to going forward with the bond issue.
Well, Neil, you sort of jumped on the word that I was about to use. That some of our facilities are an embarrassment, both the library and the town hall. Certainly not something that one can be overly prideful about in attracting new residents to our town. Now, this is something you can't build into your forecasts and projections. But if you want to have a town that people look positively toward, these would be two elements that would be real positives. A comparable that I can think about is a couple of friends of ours live in Monterey, and they recently built a new common building library, which is a delight to look at, a delight to be in, and they are incredibly proud and boastful about it as compared to how people in our town refer to our town hall as an embarrassment. Yeah, there's a price to be paid, but unfortunately, you can't have something fall down on top of you. So,
You know, there's also the issue, the attribute that we're going to have this building right near the school. I mean, not close enough so that there's any concern, but it's going to be, you can reach it. There'll be overflow parking. There's some other things there that people are going to really like once we get this thing in place. We're going to have a center to the town, which would be nice.
so I don't have any further financial questions. I'm obviously a supporter of the project, but I don't know if there's nothing for us to really vote on tonight, is there, Bob? You're
Muted.
Muted, Bob.
You're still muted.
He's going to tell us he knows that.
Okay, well, I saw that I am pressing the space bar, but it didn't seem to make any difference. Before I address that question, Bob, let me just say that I support Danielle and her concerns. As you know, I am very conservative and very worried about all of the future finances of the town. And I too, I share those concerns and would just like to point out that we have limited capacity under 2.5 to increase taxes without an override. And overrides in this town historically have proven to be deadly. And so what may have to happen here is that budgets need to be trimmed significantly in other areas to support keeping taxes within reach for our taxpayers. However, having said that, I think there is probably no better time than to go forward with this project than now. And I do believe, I support it. I believe we need a new town hall and library. And yes, it could possibly be a burden on the taxpayers, but I think there isn't a better time to go forward and to ask the taxpayers to support this project, knowing that there may be some pain ahead. But anyway, as far as anything that the Finance Committee needs to do at this point, I don't believe there are any formal approvals, but I think that Pat and her committee would like a show of support from the Finance Committee saying, yes, go forward with this plan and present it to the town with the expectation that when it comes down to actually voting on a financing proposal, that the Finance Committee will be behind this. Pat, is that
Yeah, that's
fair?
right. I mean, we want to do everything we can to make sure that if we're gonna do this, we got to go forward with all of our, all of our hearts and minds, and really put it into it. And that includes making sure that we're doing what we need to do so that the rest of the Finance Committee and Al too, because while Roger and Neil have been hooked in, you have not been so well hooked in. So I want to make sure that your questions are answered as well, so that you feel good about this.
Well, I'll tell you my concern. Like all of us, we're concerned about cost. But I'm more concerned about the perception of us as a group, the Finance Committee and the town, as showing reservation that this is like risky. That to me scares me more than the project itself, because the conversation that we just had, if that was heard by the entire town, you probably lose 4 votes that you need to make this thing pass. So I think we have to be very positive about this project, knowing full well that there's challenges. But we need the enthusiastic support of all of us, both inside the town hall, on the building committee and the Finance Committee, to be, I don't want to say cheerleaders necessarily, but to not show public reservations about what we're doing, because I think all of us collectively believe that there's no better time than now to go forward with this. There's no better cost opportunities than now.
I think, I echo that. I think
Need is only going to get worse.
I think the select board has to be aggressively in favor of this as well.
Yes. And I think if that reservation is shown by any of these boards or individuals in these positions, I think that it could be a deal breaker.
We've got 3
I'm on board
enthusiastic.
with it. I mean, I'm not trying to say I'm not on board with the project. I mean,
I know. I heard
to kind of point out where we are places. So I mean, I apologize if I overstepped. But.
No, it didn't upset me. I heard you. I understand you, and I appreciate the fact that you're not afraid to verbalize your concern. But I'm just saying that's a good verbalization amongst us, but it's not necessarily a good verbalization widespread.
Well,
Oh, no, I totally understand.
I just remind everyone, this is a public meeting. The minutes are going to be public. So whatever has been said here tonight will be available to the public. But I think the support of this Finance Committee, obviously the Building Committee and the Select Board, the aggressive support, not just, yeah, we're in favor of it, but there are other issues we have to be concerned about. That's essential. So my position's pretty clear.
I think airing the concerns is a good thing. You air the concerns and then you understand what you're going into and what you're facing, and we can be supportive without saying that we haven't thought it all through. I think we have done a lot of thinking, and I think this group is helping with that, and Danielle is clearly helping with that. So yeah,
I have a
enthusiastic support.
question. I have a question. Does the town get any monies from places like Bartlett's or Balderdash? Or does that all, whatever they're paying in taxes, that comes back to us in Chapter 90 and for the school budget, help with the school budget?
It's all the same tax rate.
Yep, you don't get anything like meals and rooms tax or anything, or meals tax from either of those places.
What about the inn? We don't get anything from that?
You hardly get anything. You only got about $1,000 last year, which seems extremely low to me. One of the ways that you can look for more income for the town is to check these places like the inns or the Airbnbs that are not actually following the town bylaws, that you are not collecting where you should be collecting. So that is something to look at.
How would that be done, Danielle? Would that something that the town has to do?
Yep, that's something the town would have to do. And then you would have to have the people enforce it. I think that your enforcement would go through Alliance, which is works with our Board of Health.
Okay.
To make sure the fees are paid and the taxes are paid correctly.
But I have another question for Bob. And I know shortly you'll be working on town budgets and things of that sort. It seems to me that the school committee, their budgets have never been questioned by anybody at the town meetings that I'm aware of. And I know that I'm in favor of the school. Don't get me wrong. I think they do a great job. But I just wonder if maybe their budget should be looked at a little bit closer, and if maybe there's areas where they might be able to cut back to alleviate, as Danielle said earlier, roughly $150,000 increase each year. Now, maybe a part of that is school salaries, which the union, and it's all negotiated, so you can't probably adjust that too much. But I just think it's something that maybe the finance committee can look at a little more closely than they do. Although I know they do a darn good job. And I appreciate all Bob has done.
Well,
just a comment. I had to say something.
I would like
Dick, I'd like to invite you to attend the finance committee meetings that we have with the school committee meetings, and you will see that we leave no stone unturned when evaluating their budget. And we go back constantly to ask them to find places to cut. And eventually we get to a point where we've run out of places to ask them to cut. It's a tough situation.
I would like to comment on that. The school budget, if you go back 20 years, I would agree an awful lot with what you just said, Dick, that we didn't have much visibility as to what the school was doing, and they were running amok and maybe a little wild. But over the last 20 years, we've gotten more and more visibility. And last year, for example, for the current budget year, the school budget, we saw every line in their budget. And we questioned and challenged everything. And their original request was, as I recall, like a 7% increase. And I think we ended up with in the 3% range. And we, at one point, were zero. And when we were at zero, we weren't even happy with some of the cuts that they were making in the school. It was quite dramatic. And I would say that their budget was scrutinized greater than any other budget in town, which it should be because it's the largest piece. But I think that we had a lot of visibility into it and a lot of say in it. And we also tried to let them operate autonomously like they're supposed to. But I don't know what more we could have done than what we did do. And there was a lot of challenges. And we burdened them with even additional challenges. I don't think the Budget Advisory Committee could have done a better job than what we did this last school budget. But I too agree with you that it seems high, and it is high. When you talk about teachers' salaries and whatever, I was involved with that for many, many years. Neil was involved with it for the last 4 or 5 years. And if you compare their salaries with comparable salaries in comparable school systems in Berkshire County, they are just above the average in pay. When you look at position by position or category.
Roger, I would like to interrupt and just say, we're getting off subject, off topic. Could we go back to the town hall and library?
Sure.
We've gone through that before, so.
I thank Roger and I thank Bob.
And we'll keep you in mind when we do that exercise next year.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing us back onto schedule, Stephen.
Yeah, Steve, did you have
Steve's hungry.
something?
No, but I did want to say to Pat that I am enthusiastically supporting all of her efforts. I think she's done a really great job. And I think everything we've said tonight is right on point, that the town needs a new building for a town hall and a library, and that we can rise to the challenges when people ask, well, what about this? What about that? We have a well-functioning budget advisory committee and finance committee and select board. And we just need a united front going forward saying this is something the town now needs to do.
Yeah, thank you. We have 3 members of our committee on the phone here, Dick Stover, Mark Gross, and Catherine Wilson, and another one of the library trustees, Nancy McConnell, who have been, the building committee has been fantastic the whole time. So we've got a whole committee of people who are on it, and library trustees.
And I do believe there's 2 areas that we have to beef up, and one is the operating cost slide, and the other is the question Stephen asked is, what are we going to do with the old town hall? We have to have a better story than we have.
All right, and I just have one comment. I've spoken to Pat about it. She's aware of it. If we're presenting this slide presentation to the public on 5 or 6 occasions, I've done a lot of these in my time and listened to a lot of them. I just think that while we fall in love with each slide, we ought to think about a more condensed presentation when we go to the public. That's just a general comment, and Pat's aware that I feel that way.
I have tried to
I
make
know
it
you
shorter.
have. I know you have.
But then we ended up adding some of the graphic slides, but I think the graphic slides are good. I mean, people want to see where is the building. So hopefully those are good additions, but.
Okay, I just point out those 2 slides are something conflicting. One is the north view, one is the south view. But we can talk about that at a different time. We don't need this.
And I have to say, I love the aerial view shot that was added to this. I
Right.
think that's
That's
very
good.
clear.
Yeah,
It's
I'll
great.
I like it too, but that's the one that looks south, and then the actual site
Yes.
plan looks north. But the site plan, if you try to turn it upside down, makes no sense.
work.
So yeah, I think we're just going to have to, gives us something to talk about.
Well, I think Roger would agree. The view to the south is much nicer.
Yeah, we want to show that so that people can see what we're talking about.
Well, it shows the proximity to the school.
Right, which is
This
something
is
we've
what-
been talking about.
This is what Roger sees off his deck.
Yeah, is it?
Those mountains in the background, yes.
Yeah, don't tell the taxpayers about the view tax, Bob, please.
Don't mean to rush
Oh,
off,
and,
but
you
do
know,
we
I
have any
didn't
other
mention that. I
business?
think Peter Cohen is on the line. I said we only had 3 members here, and then I saw
Peter's
the
here.
box without Peter's picture. But so we have 4 members of the building committee here. Peter Cohen is here as well. So thank you, Peter, for being on the line.
My pleasure.
Peter was kind enough to spare us his picture just as
So I was looking at the pictures, and then I realized this box.
Thank you,
Let
Neil.
me just ask if there are any comments on any of the financial slides here. There are, the project costs are simply taken from what P3 has provided us. And then we have, next one down is the suggested funding and financing, showing the sources of the funds here and some bullet points on the financing. And then we have the estimated tax impact per 100,000, the incremental piece of it, and the total representation of the property tax impact per 100,000, and on a median value and the average value of homes in Richmond. And then finally, the operating cost changes, which I hope will be fleshed out a little bit more over time. Does anyone have any comments on any of those?
I may have, Bob. To be honest with you, I haven't had a chance to go over the deck.
Okay, well, you as a member of the building committee can do that at the next opportunity, which I believe is Monday.
Monday night at 5:30.
Yeah. But finance committee members, are there any comments from any of you? Any concerns, any questions? Okay. So I guess we have an overwhelming level of support from the finance committee for the building committee to move forward with this. I am in favor of the building committee moving forward this presentation towards the goal of presenting it at the annual town meeting in May for a vote and approval of the financing package for this.
I am also.
I'm sorry, Stephen.
I believe Steve said he is in favor also. I see John with a thumbs up. And Bob, you supported it.
Enthusiastically in support of it, and I think the committee has done a good job of analyzing costs, not throwing a lot of frills in this project, and being fiscally responsible and looking at the alternatives.
And I know Pat, as chair of the building committee and the finance
Now
committee
or never.
members. Yes, exactly. Okay. So I guess as a finance committee, I think we are done for now.
Well, thank you.
Unless there's
Thank you,
anything
Bob.
else.
Thanks, and thanks to the selectmen and to Danielle. And Bob has come to, even though he's not on the building committee, he's come to an awful lot of our meetings. So we really appreciate that as well. So thank you.
And so has Neil.
And so has Neil. Neil has come as as public.
I'm your public.
Nancy McConnell is part of our public too, who's always there for us.
Okay, so with that, I guess we'll adjourn the finance committee portion of this and let the select board continue on if they need to.
Okay.
Thanks,
So
Pat.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Enjoy
Building
the
committee,
rest
see
of
you
your
on
evening.
Monday. Yeah, take care, everyone. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Danielle,
Okay,
do we
it's
have
us. Do we
any
have-
more business? You're muted. Danielle, you're muted.
Sorry. I don't, the kids came home, so I muted myself.
Understood.
I don't have anything else. I did my TA report earlier. So if we don't have anything else, we can just adjourn. It's up to you.
Okay, just check on that green burial thing. I need to get
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
to
I will check on that. And did you all get the Beth's formal letter on the logging that I sent you?
Yes.
Okay.
And I read it. Should it go on our agenda for the next meeting?
We can do that, or we can ask the zoning board if they'll hold a hearing, because the zoning enforcement officer is not going to address it. I know that. So if there's still the concern, then the zoning board would actually have to hold a hearing to rule on it. we can discuss that at the next meeting as to whether you want to move that forward to them.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, there's no more business to be talked about now.
Move we adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I'll move to adjourn then.
All right, you move to adjourn. I'll second your motion.
I'll vote.
Roger?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, all in favor of adjourning?
yes.
Aye.
Good night, folks.
Aye.
Aye.
I
Good
think
night, Be well.
we adjourned twice.
Yeah,
I think so.
the double adjournment. Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good night.